I just want you to get it done. That's the top priority of the dominant personality style. Today, we're going to be focusing in on the D type, the dominant type, to help you understand how they're wired, what their needs are, and how to connect with them in an effective manner.
Welcome to Becoming Wiser with Dr. Robert A. Rome, author and world-renowned public speaker, as he shares stories involving his experiences and lessons learned in a good-spirited, positive, and fun way. Here's Dr. Robert A. Rome.
If you think about the D-type personality or the dominant type, you can just almost picture get the job done. They may have their hand in your face, they may have their finger pointing to you, but just get the job done. What is the matter with you? Quit lollygagging around and make this thing happen. I'm going to give you some words as we talk about it. Let's have a quick review. Remember, the D-type is outgoing and task-oriented. Those are their two primary traits. They're wired, fast and furious, and they also are focused on make it happen, get the job done, cut to the chase, get to the bottom line. We say this is the dominant type. I'm going to give you some other words that you can maybe jot down or think about as you're learning how to understand personality styles. They're dominant, demanding, direct. They're very determined. They're decisive. They're a doer. They're not a talker. They're a doer. They love to be the director. They're very dogmatic. They're a dreamer. They're very diligent, and they're very dynamic. Now, I don't know if you noticed or not. Now, I just gave you a lot of words. They all start with the letter D. That's the way we're trying to teach this and train so you can understand, oh, I get it. That's what that person's like. That's the way they're wired. I went through the dictionary when I was studying this. I looked at every word in the whole English language that starts with the letter D, trying to find a way that I could edify, encourage, or help people understand in a positive way what this person felt like on the inside. If you could hear their motor, it would sound like, run, run. Come on, let's go. Let's make things happen. So remember, we're talking about understanding people, not labeling them, not criticizing them, not categorizing them, not putting them in a box, but understanding how they're wired. The D type is a powerful individual. And listen, may I just say this to you, friend? The D type is that part of you that gets things done. It's the part inside of you that says, don't quit, don't give up, don't ease up, back up, let up, or shut up until you get the job done. All of us need that. Nothing great in life was ever accomplished without working at it and hard work. I love what Yogi Berra, the former catcher for the New York Yankees, said. Hard work ain't easy. Well, that's kind of a beautiful statement of understanding what the dominant type is like. Now listen carefully. Every word I've given you and everything I've said so far has been uplifting, encouraging, and positive. I've got to be fair, and I'll do this with all four of our sessions on personality styles. The one area this person has to watch out is sometimes they come across defiant. That's sort of an Achilles heel. It may be like a blind spot. They don't realize they kind of walk with a swagger and kind of have the attitude of, I don't need anybody to tell me what to do. I know what to do. Boy, they're if they were an animal, they'd be like a lion. If they were a substance, they'd be like sandpaper. And I love that. I love the fact that sometimes you have to be a little bit rough in order to overcome challenges and not quit and whine and act like, oh, I'm facing a challenge. Well, that's how greatness occurs. All of us love movies like Rocky. I mean, think about it. Just the whole Rocky series was about overcoming adversity. And they have done very, very well at the box office, all because someone overcame challenges. Now, research shows that only about 10% of the general population have this kind of personality style. And there's so many of them in various and sundry manners. You've seen Dr. Phil on TV, Judge Judy, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump. And I'm not trying to be political. I'm just saying anybody who is strong-willed and powerful and likes to make things happen and doesn't like to be told what to do very much kind of has a little bit of an attitude of overconfidence. Man, they make great leaders. Their basic needs are choices, challenge, and control. You've got to let them feel like they have a little bit of say in what's taking place. Don't make statements to them. Learn to ask them questions. I learned this with my oldest daughter, Rachel. When I said to her, you need to be in bed by 10 o'clock, that did not work. But when I said, you can go to bed whenever you want to, you're the boss, you're in charge, 10's the limit, but you can make it happen however you want to. Everything started to change. Let's focus on the D-type personality a little closer. What are their strengths? They're strong-willed, determined, very independent, and optimistic. They're very practical, productive, decisive leaders. And as I mentioned earlier, they just have a lot of confidence. All of those things are great, but now listen carefully. It took me forever to learn the concept I'm about to share with you. I thought weaknesses were the opposite of your strengths. Turns out I was wrong. Do you know what weaknesses are? Weaknesses are your strengths pushed to an extreme. Let me give you a simple example. Many of us have had a meal, and at the end of it, we had one piece of dessert. That's great. But sometimes it was a holiday, maybe Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, and we had a second piece of dessert. It was just so good. And then we felt like, well, I just want a little bit more, and we had maybe a third helping of dessert, and then all of a sudden we felt nauseated. We felt sick. Why? We overdid it. That is the best example I have ever been able to come up with. When you take something that you're good at and you use it to an extreme, it almost can be overwhelming. Abraham Maslow once said, if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything you see will be a nail. Well, now think about doing the dishes, and the only tool you have is a hammer. That's not going to work. And so recognize that the personality styles, especially the ones that you're strongest in, tend to be the one you rely on the most. And that's where weaknesses come from. You overdo something and realize, wow, I just pushed something that was good too far. In D types, I'm speaking to you today, but I'm also speaking to other types, and we'll do this on all of our podcasts. D types, you don't mean to come across overbearing. You don't mean to come across as a know-it-all. You don't mean to come across as harsh or sometimes even mean to other people, but that's how people read it. When you have the attitude of, it's my way or the highway. If you don't like it, you can lump it, take it down the corner and dump it. And you demonstrate that towards others, it scares them. They tend to back off. Under control, they look very courageous, but if they're out of control, they can look reckless. Under control, they're quick to respond, but out of control, they can look rude. Under control, they're goal-oriented. Out of control, they can be impatient. Under control, they're results-oriented. Out of control, they look pushy. Under control, they're very deliberate. Out of control, they can look dictatorial. Under control, they have a lot of self-confidence. But out of control, that can come across as being conceited. Under control, they're very direct. Out of control, they can be offensive. Under control, they're self-reliant. Out of control, that can be, people perceive them as being arrogant. Under control, they're very straightforward, cut to the chase, bottom line. But as I mentioned, out of control, they can look abrasive, like a piece of sandpaper. And under control, they're very competitive. Competition's great, but out of control, they can look ruthless. And again, understanding this can help bring some balance, some self-control. D-types are awesome. They make great administrators, athletes, boxers, builders, business owners, coaches, excellent developers, directors, drill instructors, entrepreneurs, executives, fighter pilots, foremen on the job, government agents, law enforcement officers, lawyers, military or special force agents, special force personnel, excellent motivators, news anchors, private investigators, producers, race car drivers, real estate developers, sales managers, supervisors, truck drivers, and just people to know. And we're not trying to, again, pour everyone into an exact same mold. There are variations within the dominant type, but this helps you to begin to see their basic needs and how they're wired. If you're recognizing, I'm working with them, they're only focused on one thing, the bottom line, get the job done, cut to the chase, make it happen. You see, if you have a lot of that and you're listening to me right now, you think, man, I like this guy. He understands me. Did you catch it? That's what this training is about, understanding people. I'm not saying this is the only personality type, but I am saying it is one of the personalities. And I so admire them. And listen carefully, I want to be like them. That is, I want to have the traits of being able to work hard, get the job done, not talk, but do things that need to get done. D types like activity, bigness, and challenge. They like competition and debate and doing things. They can be critical of poorly performed tasks. They complete an amazing amount of work. And sometimes they may believe that approval and encouragement leads to complacency. They don't pass out a lot of compliments because they feel like if I brag on you too much, you may quit on me. They tend to seek leadership roles. That's the thing that's in driving them to be their business owner. I worked with Zig Ziglar many years ago. Zig was a high D-type personality. Loved him, admired him. Zig used to say, my personality prohibits me from working for another person. He wanted to own his own business. If they're not careful, they might need to learn to delegate responsibility because they just like to do everything themselves, since nobody can do things as well as they can anyway. I say that tongue in cheek. They might unintentionally intimidate people. And don't miss that. That is powerful because you don't know you're doing it. You don't realize like how strong you come across, how powerful you are. D types are goal-oriented. They're very intense. They're very industrious. They're performance conscious. They're very self-confident, and they're firm, bottom-line focused people. Ds don't like indecision, talk without action, activities without a goal, slow activities, unproductive people, and being told what to do. So this is the way you coach them. This is the way you have a relationship with them. You think to yourself, this is results. This is bottom line. This is get the job done. Ds want you to be. This is what you need to be if you work with one or if you know one. They want you to be quick, confident, productive, to the point, specific, and driven. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be that way all the time, but if you want to connect with them, you certainly have to demonstrate those traits. Ds in your family, your organization, your team, your business, your school, wherever you might go, remember, they are the dominant type. They enjoy making decisions to solve problems so they can reach their goals. Now, what have we done in this particular session? We have focused on one particular personality style, the D type or the dominant type. If you've been taking notes, we've been giving you a plethora of information. I learned that word in graduate school. You have been given a lot of information. If all you remember is the D stands for dominant, they want to get the job done. They're like a piece of sandpaper. They're like a lion. They're on the focus for making things happen and being successful. And as I mentioned earlier, hear me well, if you have this type, you're going to have to learn to calm down and use other types of personality styles as well. You don't want to just use this one because it's not always appropriate. Remember what Abraham Maslow said, if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything you see will be a nail. And that doesn't work in all activity, in all environments. You're going to have to learn to recognize and receive the other personality styles. But if you don't have this style, may I say a word of encouragement to you? You can develop it. I wish I could go back and do my life over because I was a better talker than doer. This would have caused me to learn to say to myself, come on, get with the program, get the job done. You can do it. Work hard. There'll be time for play. There'll be time for interactive action. There'll be time for dealing with people later. For right now, get the job done, man. Come on, you can do it. Let's go. I promise you, that's the ticket to financial success. That's the ticket to promotion. That's the ticket to recognition by realizing the one who accomplishes the goal, finishes the task, and makes things happen is the one people look to as their leader. I hope this has been helpful. I'm Dr. Robert Rome. We focused on the dominant type. I look forward to our next session as we continue to talk about different personality styles. Thank you so much.
For more information about this podcast, please visit www.becomingwiserpodcast.com.